if you want to do this on a computer, what you will do is you will just collect data for some time. Like, of course, it will be sample data. You will take an FFT, and that FFT, if it's of sufficiently large resolution, you will be able to figure out where exactly your signal is, right? You will be able to find out a bin, an FFT bin in which there is a large energy, and you can say that, okay, this is the frequency of the carrier which you are getting, okay? And you can detect that. You can make a simple threshold rule that says that if the energy that you're receiving in a particular bin is greater than some value, then that is where the carrier is. Okay? So you get a somewhat coarse estimate of the frequency from this. Usually such methods are used to get initial coarse estimates of frequency and phase, and then you use some locking technique like a PLL to do fine tune. Okay? Sometimes something like that is done. Is this clear what we are doing? Any questions in this? I mean, this is a rather simple technique. Like it's like like it's very close to what our intuition says. Like if you want to find out what the frequency and phase is for a carrier, just plot its spectrum and see. That is essentially what we are saying here. But of course, when you do this on a computer, you have to take FFT, and there is a resolution. So there is a non-zero resolution for the FFT. So we are limited in that way by the bin size of the FFT. But we still can get a coarse estimate of the frequency and the phase also. You can also compute the phase in this bin to get a coarse estimate of the phase. Is this clear? Any questions regarding this?
No, sir.
So is everyone aware of what FFT bin is?
The number of
Sir, the size of FFT, sir.
Sorry?
The FFT size.
so the K
It's the
value.
resolution with which it can resolve the frequency.
Okay. So it is it's like 2 pi by n, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 2 pi corresponds to your sampling frequency, right? So it is Fs by n in your continuous time frequency domain. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we do, and then if we have a system where the carrier is suppressed, like in the case of DSB-SC, then I think we have already seen this. Like in order to get such a significant carrier, then you might have to square the signal. When you square the signal, you will see that a carrier signal at 2 times the frequency is generated, and that helps you to get an estimate. Okay, so I mean the original frequency is this frequency by 2, like that. So that is what we can do here. So this is basically that method. Like you square it and then you filter out that particular frequency in order to get an estimate. Okay, so this is an initial method. Like you just use the FFT as a way to figure out coarsely where the frequency and phase lies. Now we come to the phase lock loop. The phase lock loop is a closed loop system, okay, which contains 3 main components. So you have something called the phase comparator. The phase comparator is used to compare the phase values, the phase angles in its input, okay, in its 2 inputs. So it basically compares the phase value in its 2 inputs. We'll see what exactly this phase comparator is, like how it works. Now, from the phase comparator, okay, there will be an error signal which is generated, which we will call EFT. This EFT goes into a filter, okay, because this is in the loop, we call it the loop filter. The output from the loop filter, which we are calling VFT, is used to control a voltage controlled oscillator. We have already seen voltage controlled oscillators when we studied FM modulation, right? So it will produce a sinusoidal signal at the output whose frequency is a function, okay, of the input voltage. So the output frequency is going to be some sensitivity times the input voltage. Okay, here it is V itself. Okay. So usually there will also be a free running frequency. Okay, so this is the frequency at which the voltage controlled oscillator will produce a sinusoidal signal if there is no input signal, input VFT is 0. Okay, otherwise you will get a variation in the output signal like this. So this O of t is actually a sinusoidal signal. Okay, so I think we will assume that it is like cos. Okay, so let us say that it is like cos of 2 pi f out of t. F out of t into t. Right? So this is what O of t will look like. Sorry. Okay. See, any questions here in this high level diagram? Okay, so the PLL, the phase loop.
Loop filter do?
Sorry.
What does the loop filter do?
We'll see that. So the loop filter has many sort of functions. For example, I mean, you might have already seen this in control systems class, right? So the loop filter's bandwidth will control how the loop responds to your inputs. It determines the stability of the loop and things like that. Right?
Sir, is RFT here compulsorily LCM?
RFT here compulsorily?
Is it LCM, sir? Like large carrier and
Oh, no. I'll come to that. I will explain what RFT is. Just right now, just think about RFT as some input which is coming. Okay. And what this phase comparator does is it will compare the phase between RFT and this O of t. RFT is assumed to be a sinusoidal signal. Okay. It is sine of some 2 pi, say fct plus phi t. Okay. Then this phase comparator will compare the phases between this and this. It will produce an error signal E of t. This error signal is filtered to give this V of t, which is used to control this voltage control oscillator in such a way that O of t's phase matches with R of t. This is the, this is what we want to achieve. Okay. I mean, is this high level picture clear?
yes.
Okay. So now what we will do first is to sort of think about one way in which or like, to get an introductory idea into PLLs, let us think about how the phase comparator, the loop filter and all those things are, using some models. So we think about the loop filter as an LTI filter. Okay, it's an LTI filter with impulse response h of t, and it will be a low pass filter response. Okay. Then this voltage control oscillator, we are going to say that its output, right? Its output O of t is going to be some AV amplitude into cos 2 pi fct plus phi 2 of t. So here fc is this free running frequency that we had. Okay, and this phi 2 of t is, I'm just writing it as a separate phase term instead of writing it as f out of t. Okay, or like whatever the phase that is caused due to f out of t. This phi 2 of t is dependent on the input, right? Like this. This of course comes from this relationship. So if frequency is dependent directly on V of t, then phase will be like integral of that, right? So that is what we have here. So are these two things clear? So the loop filter is just thought of as as a LTA system with impulse response h of t. The voltage controlled oscillator is assumed to be like this. Okay? So it produces this output where phi of t is like this. Are those two things clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now remember that I had talked about a phase comparator here. So the way in which the phase comparator is implemented for us is by a simple multiplier. with a gain of Km. There are other ways of doing this. In order to tell you a little bit more, what we are looking at is what is known as an analog PLL. There are also digital PLLs where this is done in a slightly different way. In digital PLLs, you don't have sinusoidal signals as input to this multiplier. You basically have maybe like PWM kind of waveforms. Okay, and you will be comparing the area overlap under these waveforms to get an idea about the phase lag or lead between these waveforms. Okay, we are not doing that right now. We are looking at analog PLLs where these inputs are two sinusoidal signals, and we basically want to find the phase difference between them. Okay, so if RFT is also like a sinusoidal signal, okay, maybe phi1, okay, plus phi1, suffix phi1, then what we really want to find is like if this is R of t, and suppose this is like cos the other one O of t, okay, then we want to find the phase difference between these two things. And you can see that if you multiply this sine with this cos, right, what do we get? We get a sine. So what do we get when you multiply sine A into cos B?
A plus B and A minus B term.
Right, so you get an A plus B and A minus B term. What is interesting is that if this FC, okay, matches with say this free running frequency, then this A minus B term will only contain phi1 minus phi2. Right, this will be a higher frequency term which will get filtered out here. Okay, this will get filtered out here. So this error signal, once it sort of propagates here, it's as if this error signal contains only the sign of phi1 minus phi2 term. Okay, so that is why we use the multiplier as a way to compare these phases. Is that clear? So we started with this high level diagram of how a PLL looks like. So it contains phase comparator, loop filter, and VCO, voltage controlled oscillator. And then we said that, okay, let us think about it a little bit more. The phase comparator in this analog PLL, we are implementing via a multiplier. What the multiplier does is just, it just produces a sinusoidal signal again, but the argument of that sinusoidal signal contains this phase difference. Okay, that we will use as a measurement of the phase difference. Right? Is that clear? Any questions?
Basically, the high frequency component, cut out or sir?
Sorry, come again. The high frequency component
Will be cut out by the loop filter or?
Yes, it will be cut out by because that will anyway be at a very, very high FC. 2 FC, right? So when you multiply this with that, you will get a 2 FC term. So that will be cut off by this loop filter. So it is present here in E of t, but it does not propagate into this control part, into this V of t, which is controlling this VCO. Okay.
Sir,
yeah.
Does the free running frequency of the VCO should be same as the frequency of the input signal, the carrier?
Okay, yeah, I said it like that, to simplify things. But even if it is not like that, right, whatever we are discussing will work. So suppose it is like this. So I have sine 2 pi fn t plus say some phi 1. Okay, so that is what this input signal is. Suppose the free running frequency of this VCO is actually FC. Okay, and FC is different from this F1. So what I will do is I will just write this as cos of 2 pi F1 t. So let FC minus F1 be some delta or something, plus 2 pi delta t. This I will be calling phi1 of t. Okay. So I just said assume it to be the same for just simplifying the discussion. So even if it is not the same, what happens is that you will get a sine of some phi1 minus phi2 signal here. That phi1 minus phi2, that both phi1 and phi2 could change with time. Okay, And in fact, like it could change with time because there is a frequency difference between this R of t and this O of t.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is, so this is what we have. Okay. So we have this multiplier which is used to compare the phase, filter it to get this control signal V of t, and the control signal produces this O of t, which hopefully we can match in phase to the received signal R of t. Okay. So I think I already said what Km and Kv are. They are just sensitivities that we have for this multiplier and this VCO respectively. Okay, so this is like the, this just drawn it again. So what we want to understand is how will carrier recovery work? So how will we make sure that if I have some signal here, this O of t is kind of matched to that. Okay, so how will we do that? So what we are going to, I'm just putting down these notations here. So R of t is AC sine. So this is like AC sine 2 pi FCT plus phi 1 of t. This is AV cos 2 pi FCT plus phi 2 of t. So we basically want phi 1 and phi 2 to match here. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So this is like a sine, this is like a cos. What we will try to do is to make sure that phi 1 and phi 2 are the same, or phi 2 will be adjusted in such a way that it will match with phi 1. Okay. And when we do this, the signal that comes out of the VCO will be 90 degrees out of phase with R of t, but is a known phase difference, so we can adjust for it. Okay, so that is why we are doing this. Now, if you think about what this E of t is the product of these two things. Okay, it is KMACAV. You get the high frequency term plus this red term here, which is what is important. So this is what we use to compare the phases between R of t and O of t. Okay, is this clear? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to have a simple model of this PLL in order to understand how the system behaves if you have R of t to be a sinusoidal signal with some phase phi 1 of t and O of t to be some signal with phase phi 2 of t. We want to see whether this closed loop system will finally work in a way such that phi 2 of t becomes equal to phi 1 of t. Okay, so this is what
there be a 1/2 term when we are multiplying the sine and cos?
1/2. Okay.
The error term.
Yeah, there would be some term here, but there is a term. Yes, let us assume that it is sort of absorbed into whatever constant that we have here. Okay.
मम्मी सही हो अभी शिव की शादी अटेंड मिस नहीं करनी हमें.
Yeah. So.
So one down.
Yeah.
So are you just telling about the H of t?
Sorry.
So will you be just telling about the H of t?
Yes. Okay. Now, following this, we have the loop filter. Now, what we are going to say here is that because the loop filter will cut off the high frequency term, we are going to simplify things and say that this output V of t is just the convolution of this part of the input with H of t. Okay? So that is why I have written it down like this. You can see that only this part from the input is taken. This part we are going to assume it is just cut off. Okay? It does not appear at V of t appear at the output of this loop filter. V of t is just this convolution. Okay. Yeah. Any questions regarding that?
No, sir.
Okay. Now phi 2 of t. So we are going through the loop. So finally we have reached back here. So this phi 2 of t that appears here is 2 pi kV in this integral v of tau d2. Okay, so whatever we have here. Now let us see what will happen. Like assume that this phi 1 of t is equal to phi 2 of t, right? So if phi 1 of t becomes equal to phi 2 of t, then we will see that when you do this multiplication, okay, you will get the sine of phi1 of t minus phi2 of t, which is 0. So 0 error signal will be produced and no change will happen to this VCO. Okay? So this is like the stable state. So when phi1 of t becomes equal to phi2 of t, okay, so you will see that E of t is 0, V of t is 0, and then the VCO just produces the signal with no change in phi2. Okay, so you basically get the stable operation of the VCO. Okay. Any
Sir,
questions regarding? Yeah.
sir, how can we ensure that there is a FC component in the output when there is no component in like when E of t passes through H of t?
Can you come again? How can you make sure that there is no 2FC
Sir,
component?
sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Sir, how can we make sure that there is a FC component in the output O of t when we are filtering out the FC component from using the loop filter from E of t?
Oh, okay. This block, right? Whatever we have here, that is not a filter. It is an oscillator. Okay, so that oscillator is responsible for producing the sinusoidal signal at FC. It is not something that comes from here. Okay, so this oscillator produces the signal at FC. We are able to like change its frequency by this input voltage. Okay, so you might so the FM part, right? I think we did this like we had M of t coming in as input to this VCO, and what we get at the output is our FM signal. So this is like producing that signal. Okay, so VCO is
Yes.
producing.
So
Okay,
like
so
then
this,
the free running frequency should be equal to FC because
right, free running frequency is set to be FC. Yes.
okay, sir.
Okay. So this is like the, so I think now you get a picture about the signals which are there at different points in the PLL, right? So you have this sinusoidal input with phase phi1 of t. What we are trying to do is to actually find out what phi2 of t is. And now we have like a, description around the loop of the different signals which are present. Now, I think you can probably see why we have taken R of t and O of t to be sine and cos, because if you take it to be sine and cos here, you basically get the sine of phi1 of t minus phi2 of t function, which is 0 when phi1 of t becomes equal to phi2 of t. Okay, that is why, we have sort of simplified the notation by taking R of t and O of t to be sine and cos respectively. If you think about this using, say, R of t is equal to cos and O of t is equal to cos, that also is very fine. What just happens is that whatever error signal that you get here will be like cos of phi1 of t minus phi2 of t, and that will be 0 only when the argument is pi by 2, right? So phi1 of t minus phi2 of t has to be pi by 2. So in this setup, what this says is that you will finally get a match, or the whole loop will behave in a stable way. I shouldn't say stable. The whole loop will be in like steady state with 0 error when phi1 of t and phi2 of t in this case are equal. And if you think about R of t and O of t, what we can say is that the phase match occurs when they are actually in quadrature. So that is what happens in an analog PLL. Okay. So only when R of t and O of t are in quadrature, you basically get the phase match. And this is the condition under which the phase log loop is said to be in log. Okay, it is logged onto this R of t. Is that clear?
Sir, so is a 90-degree phase shifter also used just after the loop filter?
Yes. Not after the loop filter. Here, if you want to say do coherent demodulation, you will take this, then then have a 90-degree phase shift, and then it becomes like properly matched with whatever signal that you have, and then you can demodulate.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So now, we kind of, I think, understand that, okay, so there is a kind of steady state operation for this loop when phi1 of t and phi2 of t are equal, right? So nothing bad happens to the loop when phi1 of t and phi2 of t are equal, right? Or in that ideal state, the loop works. Okay, so the loop doesn't make phi2 of t grow large or anything like that when the loop lock conditions are satisfied. Now, so this is not enough for us. Like, we want to understand a more realistic case where you don't initially start with these assumptions that phi1 of t and phi2 of t are equal, right? So in a practical system, what happens is that you will be receiving some carrier. You don't really know what its phase is going to be. So what happens in that case? Okay? So in order to understand what happens in that case, what we are going to do is we are going to think about the system in a slightly different way. Okay? So we are going to extract from these systems, from the system, those signals which are of interest to us, and we will look at only those signals. Okay? This is why we are doing all this is because this control loop is actually very hard to study. Okay? It's not a linear control loop because of several things that are present in the loop. For example, this error signal E of t that we are getting, right? It is not a simple function of the input signals. Okay, so what is actually happening is that it's a sinusoidal function. It's a nonlinear function of the input phase differences, right? So that itself makes the whole loop nonlinear and difficult to study. Okay, so what we are going to do now is to look at some approximate models in order to understand whether the loop will work even if phi1 of t and phi2 of t are not equal. Like, we don't start with the condition that phi1 of t and phi2 of t are equal. Okay. So for this, what we are going to do is we are going to, as I said, we are just going to look at the signals of interest. Okay, so if you look at R of t and O of t, R of t and O of t by themselves are not really interesting to us. What is really interesting to us are the phase angles, right? What is really interesting to us are the phi1 of t and phi2 of t that we have. So what we will do is we will draw a system where phi1 of t and phi2 of t are the inputs to this particular system, or rather, like, phi1 of t is the input to this system, and phi2 of t is some signal that we have here. Okay, is this clear what we are doing? Any questions in this?
So we can extract phi1 and phi2 by using frequency to voltage converters or something like that, and then adding the voltages.
Right, but see, okay, so this is what I'm explaining now is just a way to think about the system. Okay, so this is just see, it's like this. So if you have a channel, right, it might be a nonlinear channel, but we still approximate it as an LTA system to understand it better. So that is the only thing that I'm doing here. In an actual system, we are not doing this. Okay? So we are not extracting out phi1 of t and phi2 of t. This is just done so that we can think more about how the PLL is working. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Sorry? Sorry, I couldn't hear. Where? What? Hello?
Nothing, sir. Sorry.
Okay. So, yeah, so you have, well, we are going to think about phi1 of t as input. Phi2 of t is the interesting part of the signal from the VCO. So that we will subtract from phi1 of t to get this phi e of t. Now, this phi e of t is phi1 of t minus phi2 of t, which is what we had here. We are taking sine of that, right? So that we are going to put as a block here. So this takes sine of that. Then we have some gain term like 2 pi some k0 and all. Okay, so that is used to sort of handle all the sensitivities and gains that we have in the system. Okay? So if you look at this thing that we have here, we have AC into AV into this KM, then you'll get an additional KF later on. So all those things are put into this K0 and we multiply that with this. This then passes through our filter H of t, okay, in order to, and then it is passed into this VCO. The VCO is just now modeled as an integrator. Why this is modeled as an integrator is because we know that phi2 of t is related to this input via an integration, right? It is 2 pi kf into, it's actually 2 pi kf into integral this output which is coming from here. Because kf and 2 pi are already taken care of here, that is why we are just writing it as an integrator here. Okay? So this is the control loop that we had. The V of t that, if we want to see what V of t is, we can get that V of t by removing the 2 pi and the kf. We just multiply it by its reciprocal and get this V of t. But this is the loop that we are really going to look at now. Is this clear how we are getting this loop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we can now think about how to relate the signals that are there in the loop. We will try to write down the equation which tells us how this phase error signal, okay, so this is the phase error signal phi e of t behaves. So, okay, so let's see. So this phi e of t into sine, phi e of t passed through the sine block into 2 pi k0 is getting filtered by this h of t. So this thing here, whatever signal that we are getting here, that is actually integral minus infinity to infinity sine of phi e of tau into h of t minus tau d tau, right? So this 2 pi k0 into sine of phi e of tau is what comes in as input here, and this is getting filtered. So that is this, okay? Now, so let me just write that down. So the input here is 2 pi k0 integral sine phi e of tau into h of t minus tau d tau. Okay, that is what we have here. Now, what are we doing with this? This signal we are integrating to get phi 2 of t. Okay, or the derivative of phi 2 of t. What will that be? So if we take derivative of phi 2 of t, what will that be? That will be just this, right? Whatever signal that we have here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we know that the derivative, phi 1 of t minus phi 2 of t is phi e of t. So phi e of t is phi 1 of t minus phi 2 of t, and the derivative of this is derivative of phi 1 of t minus derivative of phi 2 of t, which is what we have found here. So if you put all those things together, this is the sort of defining equation that we have for how the PLL's signals will look like. So it relates phi e of t, the error signal phi e of t, to the input phi 1, okay, and also the response of the loop filter and the gain that we have in the loop, the gain K0 that we have in the loop. Is this clear? Any questions here?
So can you explain once how the VCO got replaced with integrator?
Okay, so what we are doing, right? We want to construct a model for the PLL which is easy for us to analyze using the tools that we know. The tools that we know are linear systems theory, or maybe linear systems theory applied to control, right? That is what we know. So what we will do is we will look at the signals that are of interest to us. The signals that are of interest to us are these angles, okay, not the actual signal that is coming from the VCO. So the actual signal coming from the VCO is this cosine signal. It is cos 2 pi Ct plus phi 2 of t. But what we are interested in is to convert this block into a block where the output is phi 2 of t. Okay, and the input is still whatever input that we have here. So what is this block? That is what we are trying to, so if you can answer that question, it will give you the answer to how we are doing this replacement. Right? So we need to make a block where the output is phi2 of t and the input is v of t. So what is that block? Right? So we know that in the VCO, well, this relationship holds. The output phase is the integral of the input value, input control voltage value, or the instantaneous frequency at the output of the VCO is going to be proportional to the input voltage control value. Right? So that is what we are doing. So once we know that we need a picture like this where, or we need a system like this where V of t is the input and phi2 of t is the output, then this is determined by the VCO transfer characteristics to be just an integrate. Is that clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So one doubt.
Yeah.
So here V of t will be like some multiple of sine of phi1 of t minus phi2 of t.
May not be a multiple, okay, because we are actually writing it down as a convolution here. So it may not be a multiple.
So, but since we are understanding h of t as some low pass filter and we are saying that the 4 pi FCT component we are getting, that is getting filtered out.
Yes.
So we will be getting the sine phi1 of t minus phi2 of t. So it will be some gain multiplied by this, right, sir?
Okay, so here, okay, so it kind of depends upon what this filter is, right? If this filter is like it's an all pass filter. It's an all pass, low pass filter, like a brick wall kind of response. And then yes, true, like you will get that the output is going to be like maybe a scaling of sine phi1 of t minus phi2 of t. But in general, you cannot say that.
Yes, sir. So what kind of filter are we assuming here? Because
okay.
This is, I am not very clear like how we are getting the phase at last E of t as 0.
Okay, we will see that. So the filter response, in fact, we will try a few responses and see what happens. For example, you can, you can try this filter to be like, say, S by S plus A, something like that. It won't be an ideal brick wall response that we will be considering. So we will have to choose the, the poles and zeros of HFS in a good way. So, the filter in a good way so that you will get some good properties for the loop. We will come to that. Any other questions regarding that? Okay. So this is the, is everybody clear about this model for the PLL? So this whole system we have reduced to this defining equation, this integral differential equation, to get some idea about how the PLL will behave. Okay. Any other questions regarding this? Any other doubts? Okay. So what we will do is, okay, I think I'll probably stop here for today. So what we will do is we will try to analyze this particular equation, okay, and try to figure out conditions under which this error signal will go to 0. Right? So starting with, okay, maybe starting with a phi1 of t which is different from phi2 of t, which is more representative of the case where the input signal is different from the locally generated carrier signal. We will see under what conditions phi e of t will go to 0. Okay? And in doing so, we will make use of some Laplace transforms and things like that. So if you don't remember that, try to have a look at it before you, before we convene again for the next class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So I should also say that this is a very sort of basic treatment of PLL. At the level of what is available in Ubhamanya Madhav's book. So PLL design is a very, it's a field of its own, right? So there are a lot of other material that you can look at for understanding PLL design in much more detail. But we are not going into that much detail in this particular course. We will look at this kind of an idealized analysis. So what we will do is to actually linearize the PLL and look at the linear model and try to see whether phi e of t will go to 0 for that linear model. What are the conditions under which that happens? How should the loop filter be like, and all that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions regarding this?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay then. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.